we're going to start with that game, even though it never felt like the Eagles had a chance.
No, right?
Even when it was 16-9.
Yes.
It never felt like they had a chance.
Yes, right.
It's just a matter of time before the dam breaks on this team. They had that same vibe that we've seen in the back half of the season, and you and I both thought, even with the lethargy that we've detected from the Eagles, the fact that the Buccaneers were as lethargic the past couple of weeks, it would be enough to at least vault them
win
through
an
to the
ugly
next
one,
round, and then see what happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I at one point I texted, I think on the show thread, one team last night was playing like it wants to save its coach's job, and the other team didn't give a crap. That's how I saw it. The Buccaneers they wanted to win that game, and they surely heard the noise and the doubts out there about whether or not Todd Bowles would be one and done with the reputation of the Glazers to go chasing big names, and there's plenty of big names out there. There had to be a sense of that, and they wanted to respond in a way that would make it clear that they don't want to have the turmoil, the uproar, and just the uncertainty of a coaching change. They went out and played hard for their coach. The other team didn't. And you watch that game, it becomes palpable that one team's there to win and the other team's there because they have to be. And let's just get this over with and let's just go home. I'm surprised they fought back to make it 16-9 because that vibe was there. Even when it was 16-9, that vibe was there.
Well, Tampa kept letting them hang in there, right? I mean, Tampa with the drop passes and stuff, like there was like, you were like, wait, Tampa, they're literally like, to your point, They're waiting for you to step on their throat and end the football game. They're literally like, hey, here, we'll help you. We'll help you. And Tampa was kind of dropping the ball to your point there. But, Mike, it's shocking. It's shocking because of what you're talking about. It's shocking because of the culture that we thought was built there in Philadelphia over the last few years, how dominant they were last year. It's the biggest collapse I can ever remember of a team of this caliber in my football life. Like a team that went to the Super Bowl, was the Super Bowl favorite, and was the better team on the field, lost that game, starts 10-1, and then like totally does a 180 and starts to look like one of the worst teams in football over the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season. I mean, total disaster last night. Disaster. Yeah, they hung around there for a little bit, but like we said, it was because of the Bucs. I mean, defense, people running free, no intensity. The tackling is horrible. Nobody hustling to the ball. Offense, no imagination. And, I mean, no leadership. Does anybody say anything on the offense? Right. Embarrassing that a team will just blitz you with the same blitz the whole game, and the quarterback and the offensive coordinator can't figure out how to combat it. Over 9 on third downs against the 23rd defense in the NFL that hasn't been good in pass defense the whole year, and you guys can't muster it up a little bit? It's one of the worst pass defenses in football. I'm even as bad as it looked in December, I'm still shocked by the lack of intensity or care or whatever you want to call it, and I think you're referring to the same thing that you saw on the field from the Philadelphia Eagles last night. One of these teams that had the ultimate bravado and like, hey, we're here, eat it, there's nothing you can do. And now they're the team that's on the field that's like, we can't do anything and we don't impose our will on anybody anymore. I mean, this is the microcosm of it all. If the tush push gets stopped, you know it's a bad night in Philadelphia. So, Mike, I really am. Shocker of shockers. Never would have thought this would have happened to this team at the end of this season.
Horrible missed face mask, though, on that.
Yeah, the grabbing of the helmet.
Two-point conversion attempt from one. That was horrible, and I have a feeling the next play is going to be from the 14-yard line. Somehow Jalen Hurts ends up retreating all the way into the end zone and draws the intentional grounding.
Right.
I mean, that happens from the 4, not from the 14.
Exactly.
So I just have a feeling that there's a story to be told about how the Eagles' 2023 season went sideways. Something happened. I don't know. I can't wait to find out. Something happened that they've managed to keep under wraps for the balance of the season. There was a breaking point somewhere. To me, the easy thing to say is when they were 10-1 and they got destroyed at home by the 49ers, a sense developed in the locker room that, you know what, it's
we're
just
not as good as we
happening
think
for us
we
this
are.
year.
Right.
we thought we were good. This team is better. This team that just beat us is the team we were last year. This is not our year. There's no path back to finishing the business that we could have finished last year and blew it against the Chiefs. It's just not happening. And they never got coached out of that rut.
No, and then they got stamped again. They got stomped on the next week, right? To where it almost like solidified that thought by the Cowboys dominating them too.
And there's a point where it's on the coaching staff, beginning with the head coach, to understand what's going on for the folks under his charge and to figure out how to snap them out of it. You know, the Cowboys snapped out of it after they lost 42-10 to the 49ers. It helped that the 49ers went on a 3-game losing streak and seemed mortal, and then the Cowboys started to rise again, and just kind of like you forget about that really, really bad day at the office. For the 49ers and the Eagles, it happened so late in the season. The Eagles never snapped out of it. The 49ers never dipped. And even though the Eagles wouldn't have gone to San Francisco if they had won last night, I just still think they recognized at some level that doubt crept in, that resignation, not even doubt, just resignation, acceptance. This is it. We're not going to go back. We're not going to go back and avenge what happened last year. It's just not in the cards. It's on the coach to know what's going on and find a way to coach it out of them. That's what a coach does.
Yeah,
it's not just X's and O's. It's understanding the mindset,
mentality,
the attitude of the men that are reporting to you, and one at a time, collectively, individually, however you have to do it, getting them to snap out of it. They never snapped out of it, except on Christmas Day when they somehow beat the Giants, even though they screwed around and almost lost that one. 1-6. Chris, think about this. 1-6. Who else went 1-6? The Vikings went 1-6 down the stretch with, a revolving door of quarterbacks.
Right.
The Commanders lost 8 in a row to end the season. The Panthers went 1-6 down the stretch. I'm surprised they won one of those games. The Chargers were 1-6 down the stretch with, coach fired. All those other teams have circumstances or excuses or just not good enough. There's no reason why, of all the teams in the playoffs, the Eagles should have been 1-6. They had their starting quarterback.
Yeah, they weren't that banged up of a football team.
We're going to play a sound.
Right.
They had pretty much everyone last night except A.J. Brown and Sidney Brown.
Yeah.
They had no, at this stage of the season to be as healthy as they were, so that's not an excuse. They had no extenuating circumstance that would explain the collapse down the stretch of the regular season and to go to Tampa Bay and lose 32-9. No excuse other than they didn't get coached out of their rut by their head coach. And that's one of the reasons why there's so much focus now on whether or not the head coach is going to be back next year.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. When the expectations, the team's built that way, I understand it. Nobody responded to the coach, right? They never flipped it around. Of course, the way it looked last night, the way it looked the last 2 games of the regular season, right? The fact that there didn't seem like there was fire on the field from any of the players. I mean, anybody. I mean, nobody. I mean, Jalen Hurts just goes and sits on the sideline and sits on the bench. He doesn't say a word to anybody the whole game. Does nothing. So that is just not a good look. And, yeah, that is reflective of the head coach. They never had that bounce back moment. They never got that moment of like, okay, here we go. We got something positive to build on, right? I think the Seahawks game, like if they pull that out, maybe that gives them a little bit of a bump and rallies the troops. You talked about the Giants game on Christmas Eve, right? I think that was like, oh, hey, we won. We're off the schneid a little bit. But I do think, like, to what you said, it almost was like a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth still. Like, wait, why did they hang around? Why was that game so close in the fourth quarter, right? So I don't think it gave them the stamp of approval like we're back. And then the next week was, like, solidified. Wait, you're not back. And in fact, you're not even good because Arizona's just going up and down the football field on you and dominating the football game. Other than a few mistakes they made, controlled the game. And then, of course, week 18, it snowballed there. So they never had that moment or that game I felt like that could, like you're kind of talking about with some of the other teams, that catapulted their energy and their belief back into a positive area. And they continued to go into self-doubt mode. And we saw it just snowball out of control to where, yeah, they took the field last night and they looked like a shell of their former self. not even the same team, and it's shocking, like you said, because it's really just about all the same players except for a few guys here and there. Certainly not a team that was decimated by injury.
Tight end Dallas Goedert said at one point last week that he thought they coasted down the stretch in those final 3 games. And Nick Sirianni, when he was asked about it, of course he's not going to say, yeah, they coasted and I told them go ahead and coast.
Yeah,
but
right.
It's on him to understand what that attitude is. Where are your guys? What do they need? Does somebody need to be chewed out? What do I need to do here? Do we need to go full pads? What do we need to do? What do I need to do to get them to snap out of it? And it's like the coaches got sucked into the quicksand too. You know, Nick Sirianni's demeanor was not great down the stretch.
Yep.
We talked previously about the hostage video press conference where I think he felt like a guy who had no answers, no idea, no strategy, no spark, no creativity, no anything for fixing this. Like, this is supposed to be easy, and now it's not, and I have no idea what to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How do I fix this? I don't know, and it's not a good look. And that's why, even though he's gone to the playoffs each of the last 3 years, 3 years on the job, 3 playoff appearances, objectively, you look at this and say, it's ludicrous to even have the conversation. How could this be? Well, it just is. And the fact that you go from Super Bowl and should have won it to 10-1 and complete and total collapse, something that, like you said, I can't remember something like this.
No, right.
And I think back to John Elway firing John Fox after the 2014 season. 1 year after they went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
1 year later.
Right.
They go to the divisional round.
Yeah.
They lose at home to the Colts, and out goes John Fox. And the reasoning that John Elway gave at the time was, I would like us to go out kicking and screaming. He didn't get the sense that they were trying very hard. And remember the Demaryius Thomas story. He told me that year at the Super Bowl on this show. There were guys that didn't want to go to New England the next week. They got their wish. So Elway wanted a little more fight in a single elimination game where it's win or go home.
Right.
And you know what happened there? And this, Jeff Lurie, I'm sure, is keenly aware of this. You know what happened next? He hires Gary Kubiak and they win the Super Bowl the next damn year.
Yeah.
Next year.
Right.
They bring in a new coach and they win the Super Bowl the next year.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not ludicrous to say, 3 straight playoffs for Sirianni in 3 years, but you got exposed this year with Shane Steichen gone and Brian Johnson's into the offensive coordinator. I mean, Troy Aikman last night was talking about how hard it is to replace the offensive coordinator, and it is, in theory.
Yeah.
When your head coach is an offensive guy, it's not quite as difficult to keep it going, at least not in theory, and if it is, that means the guy who left is a lot more responsible for last year than the guy who stayed.
Yeah, it's not a good look from that standpoint right there. You're exactly right. I think that's where, I mean, listen, we know some of this stuff was not Nick Sirianni's fault. The D coordinator stuff and Vic Fangio staying and Gannon leaving and lost that. Okay, sure. We get that. Now, how it was handled up to that point, though, throughout the season, the changing to Matt Patricia and going that route, taking away, Sean Desai's power there. That was a bold move. Certainly something to try to shake things up. Yeah, okay. But, agreed that there was a personality trait or a demeanor that was missing about this football team, or that they lost. They had it for a while. That's what I think is kind of shocking that way. And it's like, wait, they were tough and gritty and in your face in a Kansas City and Buffalo game where they were kind of outplayed but found a way to fight through it and win the football game and believe. And then after that, it's like they never recaptured that mojo ever again. And yeah, I think it is a worse look from the viewpoint in which you're bringing is the offense. Okay, we know it's super talented, and for them to fall off a cliff the way they did and not have answers or be as creative. I mean, again, the talk of last night, I mean, Tampa just going to blitz every third down and just go, screw you. You guys don't even have a plan. You don't know where to throw the ball, Jalen Hurts. You don't ever change the protection of the play. Nothing. So, yeah, we'll just keep blitzing. This is easy. That is back on Sirianni, too, and Jalen Hurts. And, yeah, he's an offensive play caller, and that's why you got the job. You know me, right? I complained about this stuff all the time. Wait, you got the job because you're a good play caller. And then you get the job, and you go, whoa, hey, I just want to be the head coach and walk around the sideline. Makes no sense. That's not a good look on Nick Sirianni. Certainly not. And then the team being so talented on top of it is really the other part of it. A lot like that Bronco team that's just like, there's no excuse. You talk to 31 other coaches in football, and they'll go, I'll take the Eagles offensive line. I'll take the Eagles duo at receiver. I'll take the Eagles tight end. I'll take the Eagles defensive line. You go through their team, and they are elite at certain positions. That's where it's so weird.
I'll take DeAndre Swift.
Exactly.
I'll take DeAndre Swift.
The other guys are really good, too. I know, all of it. Right, right.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.